on a small scale, which will definitely start immediately with those individuals around you within your own household, within your community, within your city, within your state, within your country, and until you reach to that macro level, until, inshallah, the world will be in that way. But it's important for an individual to at least start from some point, to start creating that harmony within their life, within the relationships that they have with, again, their own family members, with their community members. And by doing so, as I said, you will create, or you will help support mental wellness for oneself. And if we look at Islam and we study it deeply, whether from the Quran, from the Hadith and the Sunnah of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt alayhim afsalatu wassalam, and as we mentioned before, and as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, that Allah has completed this deen. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum. That this deen, this way of life, is complete in every aspect. Meaning that if we follow Islam, if we follow the Quran, if we follow the Sunnah of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt alayhim afsalatu wassalam, meaning that we actually walk in the footsteps of Rasulullah and the Ahlul Bayt. Because again, they are, when we look at their lives, they are basically the living, breathing, speaking, walking Quran. Their actions do not swerve for one bit from the Quran. So if we're walking in their footsteps, we'll be walking in the footsteps of the Quran. And if we lived by that code and we lived in that way, yes, we will see that for every aspect of our life, physically, spiritually, mentally, every aspect of insan, every aspect is covered. And truly, life. In order to begin this, as we mentioned that there are 5 aspects that one needs to pay attention to with regards to creating and constructing this social balance, this harmony within our society or within our lives, if you want to just at least simply think of it in that way, this balance and harmony within our lives. So there are 5 things we have to look at. One is the social acceptance, which, as we said, this is pretty much accepted. If you're living in a community, or if you're living with other individuals, or your family, you know, husband, wife, or uncles, or aunts and parents, if you're living with people, this social acceptance is already there. You have this idea, or at least perception, that yes, it is possible that people can live together and they can live together in harmony and they can create a sort of balance. The second aspect is the social actualization, meaning that there's some sort of ideal or some sort of idea about, well, what should this harmony look like? Or at least what should the foundation of those relationships be like? Of course, as believers, as mu'mineen, we say that foundation should be what? Athqalain, kitab Allah wa itrati Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That this is the foundation of what that society and what that harmony and what those relationships should be built upon. And once we understand that, then the third part comes in, is contribution, that we need to contribute towards that idea, contribute towards making our institutions, our establishments, whether that institution is, again, on the smallest level, meaning our own families, and then moving further out, our community, or maybe our extended family, our community, our city, then we need to contribute towards creating that harmony, creating that balance within society that's based upon that idea, based upon that revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Then we need to be aware or be cognizant of the coherence that we create within our relationships, the people around us, based on that idea. Is there harmony? Is there coherence? Oh, well, one part of, well, my family is based upon that, but oh, I have relationships with other people and they're not quite there yet. So there's a little bit of incoherency between what's going on. So how do I, again, contribute to make that more coherent? So we have to be cognizant of how coherent our relationships are based upon that idea, based upon the Quran and Sunnah of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. That is the fourth. The fifth thing is what we called, or what we stated was social integration. Meaning that those individuals who are in, you could say, our circle or our network of relationships, again, they feel like they are part of the community. They feel that they are welcomed. Or if others come into that circle, some people who come new, that you're able to, again, bring them inside that circle, to live by that idea of the Quran and Sunnah of Rasulullah and his Ahlul Bayt, to live by those principles. And so you see, this was the challenge of all of the prophets. This was the challenge as well as of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afsalatu wasalam. To again establish that idea, to bring about the coherence. And as I said, there are, we could say, measures of success. The Arabs were, before Rasulullah, he came with the revelation, they were broken off to so many tribes and constantly fighting with one another. Again, look at the pre-Islamic history, look at the poetry, and then he was able to bring some relative unity to them, whereby, again, Islam was established throughout the Arabian Peninsula. But then shortly afterwards, the demise of Rasulullah, again, there was some coherence still. But then what began to happen was that idea, that social actualization, that was that message of the Quran being actualized in society. That thaqalain that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said that inni tarikum fikum thaqalain kitab Allah wa itirati ahlul bayt. I'm leaving behind these two weighty things. If you follow them, you will never go astray. Meaning that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted from mankind, not simply the ummah, not simply Muslims, not simply a person who said la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. When humanity in its entirety, that harmony, that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that udkhulu fi silm kafatan, that everyone, again, you have iman, understand what this revelation is, and then you enter into what? Silm kafatan, altogether. Live in that harmony altogether. And if you do so, then yes, all of the calamity and chaos and troubles, and yeah, those will be resolved, or at least solvable. It wouldn't be such that, oh, well, because these things are happening, that I'm just overwhelmed and so stressed out. Yes, we get stressed out because of, again, dealing with different personalities, those who are not bringing that harmony into their lives, those individuals who have not developed themselves to that level, which we say about Imam Hussein, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna, that tranquil soul. One around you, again, this tranquility of the soul is not a person just being passive, but a person, again, understanding what my duty and responsibilities are. Understanding what other individuals' duties and responsibilities are, understanding what my rights are, understanding what other people's rights are, and fulfilling those rights. That if we understood that, and if everyone is around us, then why would we have one person robbing another, one person lying to another, one person cheating another? You won't have that. They'll understand. And this is what Imam Zaman Ajil Faraj al-Sharif, he will establish. And that's why justice will prevail. Because the person's like, well, hey, I don't need to cheat this person, or I don't need to cheat that person. You know why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to provide my rizq. There's no need for me to worry that, oh, I have to tell this person a lie just to make sure. No, none of that. None of that exists. And so this is why that idea had become so shaken and disrupted and going off of the path that Imam Hussein alayhi had to rise to do Islah. Because if he hadn't, it would have fallen off of track. This was his sacrifice to make sure that, again, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not be forgotten. Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi also carried forth that task in his time. And as we mentioned, Imam Zain al-Abidin, he was dealing with a lot of different dynamics in that society in order to bring this balance about. As Imam Zain al-Abidin, he states in the dua that he recited on Jummah and on Eid, when describing the state that he's in, and again, who are those factions or at least individuals, not from their names, but by, again, the quality of where they were at with regards to that actualization, that social actualization that should be there. So the Imam, he says that he was maghlub, maqhur, and mubtaz, meaning that there are individuals who are antagonistic. Again, that kitab Allah wa itrati ahlul bayt. So the Imam had to understand how to engage with these individuals. Also, again, the Umayyads. I want to be specific. Then there was those who were where the Imam, he was maghlub, meaning that perhaps they didn't show a lot of hostility, but again, they weren't necessarily those who were falling in line with Ahlul Bayt, with that Kitab Allah wa itrati Ahlul Bayt. And perhaps they had, again, their own objectives. So, okay, well, we're not Imam or do what Yazid did. But again, they vied for their own power to emphasize their own influence in society. Like Abdullah ibn Zubayr, one of the first to rise up against Yazid. Yeah, he opposed Yazid, fought against Yazid, but then he established his governance in Medina and Mecca. But even in Medina and Mecca, as we mentioned, that Imam Zain al-Abidin, when the person asked that, Ya bani Rasulullah, kayfa asbahtum? That how are you? How are you doing? He says, we are like Bani Israel. We are bimanzilati Bani Israel in the time of Fir'aun. In the time of Fir'aun. This is what we are like. Then you had those individuals, as we mentioned, as the Imam, he says mubtaz. And what is mubtaz? And says all of these maqhur, maghlub, mubtaz have a similar meaning, as we mentioned. There's something that is taken from the Imam. So because the Imam, he says very clearly that Allah, that you will return your khalifa, your khulafa, meaning the Ahlul Bayt, your umana, those who you've entrusted in them, back to their state. Although in this moment they are maqlubin, maghlurin, mubtazin, that their rights have been taken, their people are hostile against them, or people are, again, they're vying for their own power, but maybe not showing open animosity against us, but they're vying for their own power. Then those who are mubtaz. Mubtaz means that something has been taken away. A right has been taken away. Again, they're not hostile, and they may not also, again, being underhanded, but they're also at the same time not fulfilling the rights of Ahlul Bayt in their entirety. Or they're fulfilling some aspects of about it, but then there's another aspect or dimension of this. And this is something that we need to discuss and need to speak about. Because this is a point where a lot of people, they will come confused and like, what? Well, what is actually happening? As I mentioned, you have Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi in one place. Then you have these others, the Umayyads, who were clearly against the Ahlul Bayt. Then you had the Abdullah ibn Zubayr, who's clearly also, when we read the history, we understand. And as Ibn Hadid, he said, again, the Mu'tazili, Sunni Mu'tazili, who gave a commentary of Nahj al-Balagha, he says, yes, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he didn't like the Ahlul Bayt. He was against it. The 40 Jum'ahs in the Salat, when it's wajib to give Salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad in the Salat. But for 40 Jum'ahs, he refused to do it. Divert people from Ahlul Bayt. Then you have others who, in a sense, they said they loved the Ahlul Bayt. Let me put it that way. Muhibbeen Ahlul Bayt. They were individuals who saw what happened to the Ahlul Bayt. Again, when Imam Hussein alayhi wasallam, when he called for, oh, look, some of these individuals, different means or another, they didn't stand, or they went somewhere else, or they said, oh, let's do that. But then afterwards, they were like, oh, what did we do? Why did we let this happen? So now they are, again, rising up. But Imam Zain al-Abidin, he holds his position. He understands his wadhifa, his responsibility and duty. And this comes in when we see that once when Imam Zain al-Abidin, he was on his way to Hajj. And as he was on his way to Hajj, according to one of the riwayat, Imam Zain al-Abidin, he encounters Abbad al-Basra, some person from Basra. He encounters this person. So he asks Imam Zain al-Abidin, he tells Imam Zain al-Abidin, he says that, you know, why have you left jihad? Again, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he's rising up again, the Tawhabin, and this, they're rising up. He says that, you know, you left the jihad to go to Hajj. So you left that thing which is difficult. Fihi su'uba, it is difficult to do the jihad. You left that to go to something that's easy like Hajj. Then this individual, he quoted the Quran, verse 111 of Surah Al-Tawbah, which we recited in the beginning, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states that Allah has purchased the life, the soul of the believers and their wealth, that in return of that, when they give their life, when they give their soul, again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them Jannah. They will fight in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, kill and be killed. This is a promise from Allah in the Torah, and the Injil, in the Torah and the Gospels, and also in the Quran. And who is more credible with regards to their promise than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If you make such a sacrifice, who's more credible in their promise? So therefore, be or have that good tidings for stabshiru. So in this transaction where you have given yourself and your wealth, you've sold it to Allah, it says, take the good tidings of this transaction that you've done. And then I want to make sure that we hear this when Allah says, وَذَلِكَ فَوْزُ الْعَظِيمِ. The ziyarah that we recite for Imam Hussein alayhi wasallam. Don't we say in it? We say, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum fanafuza ma'akum fawzan azima. That, oh, how we wish we were with you, Ya Imam Hussein, Ya Aba Abdullah, fanafuza fawzan azima, so that we will also have this fawz, this great success. But that great success is based on this, that yes, these individuals, they gave everything, and we know that this is what the Shuhada of Karbala did. And they have fawzun azim. he also recited the second verse, the verse after verse 112, which I'll go over at this point, which actually explains who those individuals are that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has purchased their soul and their nafs. What are their qualities? What are their sifat? In response to this, Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he says, إِذَا رَأَيْنَا هَؤُلَاءِ الَّذِينَ هَذِهِ صِفَتُهُمْ فَالْجِهَادُ مَعَهُمْ أَفْضَلُ مِنَ الْحَجِّ. He says, yes. He says, if the people I saw around me, meaning that Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he did not see these qualities, individuals around him who were claiming jihad. He says, if I saw these qualities in these individuals, he says, then yes. He says, then the jihad is better than the Hajj. Imam Hussein had 72 individuals who met these sifat. These sifat that when this verse was revealed, verse 119 and 111 and 112, or at least 111, when the believers, they heard this, they came running to Rasulullah. Is this true that Allah has promises? And the Prophet said, yes. He says, but you have to realize that those individuals who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised this to, they have the qualities, these sifat, these attributes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in verse 112. And what are those qualities? What are those sifats? That Imam Zayn al-Abidin himself, he says, I didn't see them, and the people. So therefore, Hajj is better than going to jihad, going to war. Allah describes these individuals, these mu'mineen. He says, Ta'ibun al-abidun. They are the ones who repent towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are the ones who worship. As we know from Imam Sadiq, it's not simply making the motions. This ibadah is one that entails ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understanding and knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These individuals are hamidun. They're the ones who praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sa'ihun. Sa'ihun meaning those individuals who make a journey. And according to the commentators, they say these individuals who make that journey, what it is talking about is that spiritual journey, a tarabiyatun ma'anawiyya. That these individuals, that they are on a journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As-sa'ihun ar-raki'un. They are bowing. As-sajidun. They are prostrating. In other words, they are connected in their ibadah. That really, if we are honest with ourselves, when we are prostrating and we are bowing in prayer, are we really prostrating and bowing? Or are we thinking about other stuff? Are we thinking about, are we really connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That I'm bowing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm putting my head on the ground before my creator. These individuals. And again, just remember the Tasu'ah. What was the camp of Imam Hussein like? Allah. So these qualities, they are those who are journeying towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who are prostrating, those who are bowing, those who are al-amiruna bil ma'ruf wa nahuna anil munkar. They're enjoining good and they're forbidding wrong, meaning that they know what is good and what is wrong. They understand the sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They understand the ahkam of Allah, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made obligatory, what he's made haram, because that is one of the conditions of amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. If you don't know something is wajib or not, and you tell us, oh, hey, you have to do this, again, that's not amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. You haven't met that condition. But if you know that, oh yes, salat is wajib, and salat is in this manner, I know for certain, then yes, if a person is not doing it, yes, you do the amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. One has to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited. Al-hafidhuna li hududillah. These individuals are the ones who are protecting the hudud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And hudud, quite often, they deal with the civil punishments and engagement, meaning they know what the hudud are. What is the hudud of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Where are those boundaries of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded? وَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah says, وَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Those mu'min who have these qualities, these sifat, give them the good tidings. These are the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has purchased their soul and their wealth from them. بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. These are the individuals like those companions of Imam Hussein who had fawzul azim. Ya laytana. Ya laytana. That how I wish we were in that state. Zayn al-Abidin, he encounters these individuals from Basra. He says, again, the person's reprimanding Imam Zayn al-Abidin, how come you're not rising up? Again, we had this before. There's the famous one that we know about when the Khurasani came from Khurasan and telling Imam Sadiq alayhi hafizah, he said, oh yeah, fighting, they're about to. Why? Because they're Sadiq. Shia. This is what he said. Thousands of Shia. That if you rose up and you commanded now, then we will rise up behind you and we will take your right and put you back in your rightful place. Imam Sadiq gave a simple test. He says, oh, you see this tanur? You see this oven? This fire is burning for bread. He says, go inside. What happened? We know the story. What happened? Immediately doubt. Oh, if I go in there, I'm going to burn. I'm going to die. Then Imam Sadiq, he told his, again, servant of Imam Sadiq. He says, go into Tanur. Servant didn't ask any questions. Didn't ask, oh, should I go in with my shoes, without my shoes? He just, Imam Sadiq, he commanded. He knows that this is Imam al-Ma'sum. He went in. And then Khurasani was like, oh, what did you do? He's going to die. Imam Sadiq called him out. The person came out, not a single burn on this individual. Then Imam Sadiq, he says, those thousands of Shia that you claim, how many are like this? The Khurasani says, even one. Wallah, not even myself, unfortunately. So we see the difference between that servant of Imam Sadiq who went in and the one who was claiming, hey, rise up. We see the difference between what this individual is telling Imam Sajjad, that rise up, yes, time is ripe. In fact, this is an interesting aspect of the history, that immediately after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, people start rising up because they knew that this is Hussein ibn Ali. Not only Hussein, this is Sayyid Shabab Ahl Jannah. If you know that this is the master of the youth of the paradise, and everybody's youthful in paradise, as the Prophet mentioned. This is one of the masters of the princes, and you kill him? Yes, people were rising up. And so they said, yeah, Ali ibn Hussein, your father was, you're not rising. Imam Sajjad, he knew the problem was elsewhere. It's not simply in rising up and killing this. The understanding, the hearts of the people were not in the right place to truly affect change. Remember that this was Imam Sajjad going towards Hajj, but when he went to Hajj, we mentioned that how he encountered this individual, Muhammad ibn Muslim ibn Shahab az-Zuhri, who used to work for the Umayyads. And then he killed someone, reprimanding them, went and lived in a cave for 9 years. Imam Sajjad says, look, come out of that cave, pay the diya, and, go back to your family and go learn your deen. Then go and learn your deen the way it should be learned. And this person connected himself with Imam Sajjad alayhi hafizah. Others, they rose up. And I'll just mention this because we shouldn't be, again, at one point as well, that some people that were, oh, well, what about the Tawabin? What about the Mukhtar? What about Muhammad al-Hanafiyyah, which at one point, as we mentioned, that there was a claim at one point of his imamat. Now, some say that, according to some of the history, that he claimed it himself. There's another narrative that, no, that others, they claimed it for him. They said, no, he's Imam, because they rise up. And of course, Imam Zain al-Abidin, he would not give it directly. He didn't directly write anything or say anything for that. But also at the same time, as we know that, yes, Mukhtar, what he did was something that in the eyes of Ahlul Bayt, as Imam Sadiq, he stated, he said, مم تشت فينا هاشم حتى بعث إلينا المختار برؤوس الذين قتلوا الحسين. He says that none of the Hashemites, meaning again in the Ahlul Bayt, this imtashatat means to comb the hair, or again, we weren't happy. We were still always saddened, and they were still saddened after that. But it always weighed upon them. It says until Mukhtar, he had the heads of those who killed Imam Hussein sent to Imam Sajjad, and the head of Umar ibn Sa'd and Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. They were cut and they were sent to by the army of Mukhtar, and they were sent to Imam Sajjad. Again, Mukhtar himself, he claimed that he was the Khalifa over Basra and over parts of Iraq, Kufa. Again, he ruled over Kufa. Likewise, Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, La tasubbu al-Mukhtar. And the son of Mukhtar came to Imam Sadiq. He says, oh, people are saying all of these bad things or negative things about my father. Imam Sadiq says, no. La tasubbu al-Mukhtar فإنه قتلتنا وطلب بثأرنا وزوج أراملنا وقسم فينا المال على عسرة. So he says that Mukhtar, he says, don't vilify him. La tasubbu, don't vilify him. Don't talk bad about him, badmouth him. He says, again, he sought revenge against those people who killed Imam Hussein. And again, we don't have much time, but again, those individuals who killed Imam Hussein, that what was the idea that they were basing their decisions upon? If we look at the court of Yazid, clearly some of the people in the court of Yazid, they were saying, we've taken revenge upon the Hashemis. There was no Nabi al-Mursal wala wahyun munzal. The Safed, no, the Hashemites just cooked this up in order to take. There was no wahi. Again, if you look at this statement, it is a go for a person has gone outside you. If you reject the Rasala, if you reject prophethood and Nabuwa, then you're no longer a Muslim. So Mukhtar, he fought against these people, that this was the foundation of what they were operating upon. And although it was said by a few people who were there, even Yazid himself, he says, only if my forefathers of Badr and Uhud, they could see, your forefathers of Badr and Uhud were mushrikeen. They weren't Muslim. This was the idea which we were working on. So Imam Sadiq says, don't vilify him. He sought revenge on these individuals. He also cared for the widows and the orphans. Again, Mukhtar married some of the widows of the Shohada, cared for them, cared for the orphans, cared for the poor. So Imam Sadiq says, don't talk bad about him. Don't vilify him. We also know from Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi also, he had made a dua that before he passes away, that the heads of these people will be like, that he will see them before him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered that dua. Pretty much like a dua that Imam Hadi made in his very famous dua safe. Dua safe, where again, Mutawakkil was one of those individuals who was very harsh against Imam. Dua against Mutawakkil. And eventually Mutawakkil was killed by his son, historically. But here, I just want to point out, yes, while Mukhtar, we respect him and this and that, there was a difference between those individuals who are around Imam Zain al-Abidin, where we can say that these individuals were like, if we say a person is Shia, and this person fit that description. Like Abu Hamza Thumali, there's no doubt about him. But Sam also said about him, he says, he said that Abu Hamza Thumali, minna ahlul bayt. He says, he's from us, the Ahlul Bayt. Like Salman Farsi, during his time, he was minna. This is the iman of Abu Hamza Thumali. We don't find Abu Hamza Thumali rising up. Abu Hamza Thumali, he was one who walked in the footsteps of Imam Zain al-Abidin, understood what Imam Zain al-Abidin was doing. Again, understood, and I spoke about this before, the correlation between the du'as of Imam Zain al-Abidin and the rights that Imam Zain al-Abidin was outlining. Rights for what? For the society, for everyone. In fact, it was Abu Hamza Thumali who came to Imam Zain al-Abidin. He says, write for me the rights, the hukuk. What are these rights? These rights. Hukuk al-nas. And of course, Allah, Imam Zain al-Abidin, he starts with what? Haqqullah. Of course, subhanAllah. If we actually are able to follow that first, haqqullah, we'll be able to follow and give everyone else their rights. What we see, and I'll just mention this, our time is really short, but what we see is a difference between those who were the Shia of Ahlul Bayt and Muhibbeen of Ahlul Bayt. And of course, Muhibbeen of Ahlul Bayt, they have their ajr, they have their reward. They have their dignity and respect even among the Ahlul Bayt, the Imams. But they're not like those Shia of the Prophet of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said, innama, again, when he described that who those Shias are and the Shia of Ali, that these individuals, that they will enter paradise without any hisab. He says, these individuals, he's describing them. He says, innama shi'atuna man shayya'ana wattaba'a atharana waqtada bi'a'malina. He says, our Shia, he says, those individuals who follow us, who attach themselves to us, who follow, again, in our effects. Atharana is like the footprints. And again, a beautiful story. I'm not going to go into, I mentioned before, that how Salman Farsi, when he wanted to go with Imam Ali to Khaybar, when the Prophet called him, Imam Ali was ill. It was Salman Farsi who was taking care of him. And Salman Farsi, when he wanted to go with Imam Ali, the messenger who came, the messenger stayed, and Imam Ali told Salman Farsi, said, you want to come with me to the Prophet? He says, yes. So Imam Ali said, so walk in my footsteps, in the athar. He says, and don't go not even 1 inch or even less than an inch to the right or left. Walk in my footsteps. So Salman Farsi said, he says, I looked and I saw exactly where Imam Ali put his foot like that. He says, we took 3 steps and we were beside Rasulullah sallallahu Allah. And there's a distance between Khaybar and Medina. 3 steps. And look, Salman Farsi, he says, I put my foot. This is why we understand that Salman minna ahlul bayt. He said, they're Shia of Ahlul Bayt. 72 of them that reached Fawzul Azim in Karbala. There were others who were, again, they love the Ahlul Bayt, Muhibbeen. They have their ajr, they have their thawab. But subhanAllah, every time I read this, subhanAllah, we cry for our own state that if we haven't reached that level of truly, that yes, be your muhibbeen, but come out of that state of being muhibbeen and be the true Shia of Ahlul Bayt. And I envy, not in a bad way, but in a good way, one of my colleagues, rahmahullah, Shaheed Ja'far. We called him, he was from Thailand, so we called him Ja'far Thailandi. So when our friends, they knew that, oh, if you're talking about Ja'far Ameriki or Ja'far Thailandi, Shaheed Ja'far Thailandi. About this. Am I a Shia of Muhammad wa ala, or am I simply a lover of Ahlul Bayt? The more I read about, again, these individuals or their qualities, Allah, cry at our own state of being. He would cry about this at night. Until one day we saw him, he was like excited, and he's like, hey, come to my house for dinner. Blah, blah, blah. What happened? He had a dream, and in that dream he saw and he actually says, am I among your Shia? He said, Imam Sadiq didn't say anything. He asked 3 times. The 3rd time he asked Imam Sadiq, just pointed to his arm. Then he looked at his arm. He says, there was this almost like a leather band, like a strip that was on his arm. He pulled it out and he read it. He says, Anta min shiatina. Allah Akbar. When will we become those Shia? Not simply muhibbeen of Ahlul Bayt. That we truly walk in the steps of Ahlul Bayt. We understand their adab, their akhlaq, their way. Said that when, again, just one incident about this, that when the heads of the killers of Imam Hussein, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad and Umar Sa'ad, when they were sent to Imam Zain al-Abidin, they said, Imam Zain al-Abidin, he saw these heads. There were a couple of reactions. One reaction is that Imam Zain al-Abidin said, Kharra sajidan. He made prostration. He said, Jazallahu al-Mukhtar khayra. That may Allah give Mukhtar his reward. May Allah give Mukhtar his reward. The other reaction that Imam Zain al-Abidin remembered, this brought back memories of his father's head that was severed and put on a spear, his father's head that was put on a platter. But you see the adab of Imam Zain al-Abidin. Imam ne neze par sar nahi utaya. Jaisa ke Yazid ne Imam Hussein ka sar par kiya. He didn't put this head on a platter, on a spear. Let us remember that day when the caravan, they came into Sham. This is one of those days of Sham, that Imam Zain al-Abidin, he says, the most difficult point in this whole journey. Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham. Remember that day when they ushered in the heads of the Shuhada. Remember that day when the head of Imam Hussein was placed upon a platter. That what did Yazid do with that head? Again, Imam Zain al-Abidin, he did not disrespect the head of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. The way the head of Imam Hussein was disrespected. The way it was disrespected in Sham. Yazid ke haath mein asa thi aur wo ahl bayt ke samne us asa ke saath Imam Hussein ke danton se beadabi karta tha. Or ek sahabi, the Prophet Sahabi, Abu Barza, darbar mein Mawazdi मैं गवाही देता हूँ कि मैंने पैगंबर को देखा कि हजरत इमाम हुसैन और इमाम हसन के दांतों को बूसा देते और फरमाते थे अंतुमा सय्यदा शबाब अहल जन्नah. That Yazid in his courts, he was hitting the lips and the teeth of Imam Hussein. And this Sahabi of the Payyambar, he says that these are the lips that the Prophet used to kiss. These are the lips that the Prophet used to kiss, and now you're striking these lips. They said, أخذ يزيد بشيبة الحسين وضرب ثنايا فصاحت زينب وغربة وحسين. They said that when this happened, Zainab, she was there in the court and she saw that how Yazid was disrespecting the Imam Hussein. She began to cry out, oh Hussein. She began to cry out that how strange we are, crying out to her, oh Hussein. يا حسين راسك حين شفته تلعب عسى يزيد على شفته وعن ذاك الوقت وتحيل تمته أو سديت الحب حرقه أو نحدته شلت والله شلت يمينك يا ضربته. Zainab, she was crying as Yazid. He was simply playing with the head of Imam Hussein. Zainab was and she began to make matam. They said that she began to slap her face. This is the morning. This is the musibat of Imam Zain al-Abidin. That why he would cry when he saw the head of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. He would remember the head of Imam Hussein in the court of Yazid. He would remember that what was done to the head of Imam Hussein, his father, in the court of Yazid. Giryan baraya Imam Sajjad Jana Imam Sajjad. My tears are for Imam Sajjad. May I be the sacrifice of Imam Sajjad. Darim beyadash Suzi Bisine. We remember his burning Nambaraya Imam Sajjad Biyadi Wakti Ke Bashki Dide Dide Bineze Sarburide. We cry in memory of his tears, seeing the beheaded father on a spear. Yadi shabi ke pasuzo nale girye karde baratifne se sale. We remember his tears for a 3-year-old who cried with burning heartache and pain. We cried that Imam Zain al-Abidin in the dungeons of Sham and Damascus. He cried at the beloved daughter of Imam Hussein, Sakina, who died in the dungeons of Damascus. ألا لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. اللهم بحق هذا المجلس الحسيني اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا وقضي حوائجنا واشفي مرضانا وارحم أمواتنا وعجل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان واجعلنا من أوانه وأنصاره والمستشهدين بين يديه وتحت لوائه بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين معتم حسين.
It's already time for Salat, unfortunately, so we're just gonna head outside for prayer, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.